Okay. Hello everybody. I hope now you are relaxed after the exam. The exam was, I heard many mixed reactions, but what I found was, at least my part, I can say English was easy. Some say it could be medium, but I found it easy, and especially, yes, some of the questions were tricky. Answers were fine, as we can see, but the questions were tricky. Other than that, the English was pretty basic. And now we will be discussing a key that is really how we went about it. And now that you have done your part, see the questions and don't panic. This is not the time to and whatever you have done so far. Yes, so we will be starting me. We will be doing the session. It starts with English. The question paper starts with English. And we are following this pattern. I know there is another set, but we are following this one. And it started with a narrative passage. I would say they started with a very, very, very easy passage of the, and you can see this. This is from Sherlock Holmes. The extract is from Sherlock Holmes. I think we all have read it. This is one of the easiest one. And so you can read, you can see how it's so easy. I don't think, see, when you have passages like this, you can never leave it. Not one question. When I talked to students, what they told me was they couldn't do some of the English questions because of the time. Okay, time management, I think, is the biggest problem for many of the students, because they said it was quite lengthy, because even the quant was, they didn't expect it to be paragraph wise, etc. I can understand that, yes, it was the problem, but otherwise, if you can see, it was definitely the easiest one. That was one of the reasons for English to be not left to the last, even last but one. It should always be in the beginning or probably in the middle, right? So of course it depends on each person's comfort zone. I get that, but English is something that you have to read, right? You have to read and analyze. It's not something that you can just look at the surface and do it. It's not possible. For us to analyze and comprehend the passages, we need time. So I think at least sufficiently good amount of 25 to 30 minutes of time, you need to keep it, and that's exactly why it should be in the beginning or in the middle. So of course, whatever is done, whatever you have done is done, and we will just see one by one. So this passage, of course, I'm not going to bore you again with the passage. I'm not going to explain the passage, of course not. And yes, from the first question, you can see the first question. From the passage, it can be inferred that. What is the thing that we can infer? Watson is Holmes' mentor. Earlier, Watson used to live with Holmes. Watson is a detective, and Watson shares all his personal matters with Holmes. You can see it is one of the easiest questions. They started off with that, so you can keep up the energy when you are doing such questions, because you feel that you know it, right? If you started with this, you probably would feel so energetic, because it is one of the easiest questions. So this one, Watson is Holmes' mentor is definitely wrong. What the Holmes is the one who is detective, deducing a lot of logics. Even if you, of course, we have knowledge outside this passage. We all have read at Sherlock Holmes, right? But even other than that, depending only on the passage, you can just see the passage and tell that Holmes is not really, Watson is not really Holmes' mentor. Okay, seems like they both share the same apartment, because Holmes is observing a lot of details of Watson when he is coming from somewhere else, right? He's coming home from somewhere else, and he's probably, his shoes were dirty and he looks something different. These are the tiniest and very minute things which Holmes was observing. So obviously, when he was observing all these things, we can deduce that these two were probably roommates, or these two shared space. right? So that's one thing that we can easily recognize. Earlier, Watson used to live with Holmes. This is the best one. And if you see, all other options are absolutely wrong. There is no way, there is no close call or anything. They're absolutely wrong. A is wrong. C. Watson is a detective. Of course not. We know that even without reading the passage. We don't even have to read the passage for that. So this is wrong. And Watson shares all his personal details with Holmes. See, this is not true because Holmes was observing it. Watson was not really willing to share. Holmes was observing. So this is also not true. And D is the easiest and obvious answer. I hope you kept this one. And we will, of course, discuss this one and we will go through the other sections also. In general, as I said, English part was very easy. You should not have felt anything difficult. When we go question by question, I think we can see what all were difficult, what all were easy, what all were close calls. And we have different kinds of passages, but many passages have to do with COVID. COVID was the hot topic, not just in the world right now, even in the question paper. COVID was a hot topic right now. But I know you must have felt, God, I can't read COVID anymore. Trust me, even I felt that. But I think it is something that is so familiar. And that is one of the reasons for it to be made, for the question paper to be made so easy, because it is so familiar, the topic. And we can never go wrong with it because we are so familiar. Okay, anyhow, coming back to this one, it is evident that for solving cases, Father Brown relies largely on. Now, Father Brown, you can see the comparison there. So the author is comparing Holmes with Father Brown and another the Agatha Christie character. So you can see his own sympathetic and empathetic process about criminals. Yes. A sympathetic approach towards various people's opinion on the case to be solved. See, when we are in a hurry, when we are in an exam room, we need to be careful when we are reading something. And when we just see sympathy word and we recognize the sympathy word and we go, okay, all the three options have sympathy, and we suddenly go for all of the above, that doesn't work. And we have to read the entire option carefully. Right? So if you see this, his own sympathetic and empathetic thought process about criminals, it is right. This is right. And it's not really about, okay, why is my pen not working? Sorry guys. Yeah, now it's working. Okay, fine. So, as we said, a sympathetic approach towards various people's opinion. And you can recall this one. We can just go back to this passage and see how the author actually narrated it, right? If you see. Okay, all right. So, Father Brown, who relies extraordinary power of sympathy and empathy that enables him to imagine, feel as criminals do. He explains, I had thought out exactly how a thing like that could be done, and in what style or state of mind a man could really do it. And when I was quite sure that I felt exactly like the murderer myself, of course, I knew who he was. Right? So this is not really about others' opinions. The second option is talking about others' opinions on the case. Father Brown is relying on the criminals and their psyche itself. Okay, so obviously it has to be A. It cannot be any other option. Just because we have all of the above, we have the tendency to go for it, especially when the options seem to be similar. Don't do that. And I hope you have not done that. Okay, so I think it will be, and as the CLAT said, it is A. It is definitely A. There is no contesting, there is no close call or anything. A is the one. For the three detectives mentioned in the passage, which one of these would be non-essential for solving criminal cases? You know that they said about sensitivity, empathizing, sympathizing, and observing. Observing, right? Critical thinking. See, critical thinking is Holmes. What Holmes does is critical thinking. Patience is what probably Agatha Christie's the character does it. Sensitivity is something Father Brown would do it, because sensitivity is an empathizing with the person so that you know how the person had done what they have done. It should be a nature. It is not mentioned. It is nowhere mentioned, and it is not something that would actually help in detective job. Also, it will not help you in solving the cases. So obviously, it has to be A. Okay. So the next one, in order to solve cases, Poirot uses the art of dash the narratives that he has been told. Okay, and how does the Agatha Christie character do it? We'll go back and see once. Going back and forth is a pain. I'm sorry, but yeah. Wish we did not have to do that, but okay. So there is another set of detectives like the one created by the Agatha Christie, her Belgian. Okay, a storyteller who draws information from the stories others tell. He patiently listens to numerous accounts of what happened, where it happened, and how it happened. He listens for credibility, ambiguity. So ambiguity is an important word here. He looks for ambiguity. Is there any missing link between the parts? Okay. He identifies why how the pieces of jigsaws don't fit together. So these are the important lines for us. So this person actually looks for missing links. That's what the option says here, right? Okay, so yes, detecting and analyzing the missing links. Empathizing with other characters, that would be Father Brown, right? So it has to be D. The next word, the word incorrigible, is the antonym of the word. See, you know the meaning. If you know the meaning of incorrigible, we know it means something like incurable. Someone who is so bad that they cannot be cured. They can never actually repent. There can never be redemption for them. That's what it is, incorrigible. So what you can say is habitual is not the one. Unperformable is not the one. Incurable is the actual like synonym of it. So this is the synonym. This is not the one. So repentant, someone who can repent, someone who can feel guilty, someone who can feel something. It's not someone who can curable. Repentant is what? Someone who feels guilty, right? So obviously it has to be this one. And probably this is not the best option, if we can say, but definitely when this is the only possible possible option when compared to others. This is the only possible answer. Okay, repentant, someone who can feel the repent, who can go through the redemption, unlike the others, unlike the incorrigible person. Okay. So we are done with the. Okay, right. Why is it moving? It is not supposed to move. I wasn't moving it. All right. So when we were talking about English paper, that's what I will be discussing. I know you had a lot of questions. You probably have a lot of questions with GK and quant, a lot of things. But I know that many of you probably have felt English was fairly easy, which is what my opinion also. And so the first one is probably we have to know narrative passage. What we actually did right now is a narrative passage. And next one, what we are going to do, you can see which one is easy and which one is hard. If you see in the first one, I would say everything is easy. Probably if you have felt any confusion, I don't. Actually, there is no scope for confusion in the first first passage. But yeah, if you have felt confusion, probably that would be with where is this? Yeah, sorry. Okay. If you have felt confusion, probably that would be with second question or the third question. There is no other scope for it. Next one. What is this passage? Since long we have witnessed unimaginable success and failure. This passage, what is this passage about? It is about, so I would say this is a very general essay. General essay on planning, execution, and is planning important or the execution important? Is the strategy important or just, so that kind of like general thought process of an essay. Very general essay, right? So what author did here is, author started with others' opinions and how people have done it, and author mentioned the famous people's quotes, and author also mentioned his or her view on it, like what does the author think about. So author kind of is saying the important part here is execution is as important as anything else. Like planning is important, yes, as Benjamin Franklin says. But execution is equally important. If you don't really, if you're not really good at execution, you may as well fail in others also. It's as equal as the others. That's what the passage is. Very generalized, I would say very easy passage. You can see there is a mention of Bill Gates, New Coke, Steve Jobs, Benjamin Franklin, famous people quotes, right? The passage can be best termed as. Now, this question, I'm not sure how many of you got confused with it. Probably there was a chance. There is a chance you might have got confused with A and B. I think this had happened already in CLAT before. Expository and descriptive both are given. So expository, if you know the meaning, it is basically explaining things in a very detailed manner, explaining. And descriptive, describing something. So which one should we choose? This is something, so I would say close call, maybe not that much, because I would definitely go for, it's not like I was so confused between A and B, but I would definitely go with A. Even before they had given the key, this is the clear option. Why? Because see, when I took the classes, I even mentioned this. I'm not sure if you remember. When we have in the tone questions, or how is the passage described questions, tone also, like critical, objective, all these questions, the words, we have to be careful. Like we need to see which one, and we need to see, like if you have comparison, like here we have comparison between descriptive and expository. So which fits better? Our answer should not be ever like, okay, this is the only option. Sometimes, most of the times, and especially in this CLAT paper, we can see, we'll have to see which is the better option. It's not always like, this is the answer. It never works like that. Especially in CLAT and English, you can see that. And you know that English is a very subjective language. You can't be like, okay, in quant, you know for sure, you use this formula, you get this answer. It's very clear. But in English, it's very interpretive. Like we have to interpret it in a particular way, and he or she interprets in a particular way, the examiner, and we need to understand in that way, right? So interpretation and subjectiveness will come so hard in this English section at least. So we need to understand that, and that's why comparison is important. When we have options, we need to compare options. See, in maths or something, you have the answer. You don't have to compare. You know the answer. What are you comparing with? You don't have to compare, right? But here you have to compare the options. Often you will have to compare. So you can see expository is something explaining things, and descriptive, you can descriptive is more used in narrative passages. Narrative, I even said this before. I'm not sure if you remember. Descriptive and narrative are very similar. Narrative is more like what you are narrating a story like, and descriptive is like if you go into a room, if you describe the details of something in a very visualizing manner, that would be descriptive. Since that could be one of the that is the meaning of it, and expository is like explaining things in a very analytical, like used in more essays in other sense. That's why it would go with I would go with A. Okay, that's probably why the examiner also thought A is the answer. Okay, in descriptive, obviously, that's the reason why we are not choosing it. I hope you did not. I hope you got that. And yeah, it was a close call. I would say it's kind of difficult. This question. So, author's main purpose is to. We will read the options. Suggest that people succeed only when they have great strategies. Only is the problem here. We know, we have already learned this while we are doing the mocks, while we are discussing in the class exercises and worksheets. We discussed it that we can never go for extremes, and if you are going for extremes, see if it actually fits in the passage or not. This is an extreme. They are using extreme language in the options, so that's a problem, right? We have discussed it, and so that's why it will not be the one. If they had said suggest that people succeed when they have better strategies, okay, I will consider it then. I would probably consider that option then. But here I won't even consider because there is only. Right? Highlight the fact that execution is as indispensable as planning and strategy. By the way, first of all, here in the first one, they are talking about strategies. They are not talking about execution. So that is also obviously wrong, but all factors that it is wrong. Okay. So B, highlight the fact that execution is as indispensable. Maybe if you do not know the meaning of indispensable, you might have gotten little, rattled by it. Like you would be confused as in what does it mean. But if you know the meaning, you know this is the answer for sure. As in, it is as important, as essential as planning and strategy. That's what they mean to say. Execution is as important as planning and strategy. So this is the main purpose. So when they talk about main purpose, what did we talk about? We'll read the first lines and last lines. We'll understand the author's perspective and we'll go for the answer. This is how we went for this answer. Highlight the fact that the execution is as indispensable and as planning and strategy. B is the obvious answer. Okay. From the failure of Newkirk, the company learned that, see, the question is important. Often when we read it, what is the passage about? The passage is about execution of the execution is as important of like others. So it is a very general essay. But now the question, take off the passage and see only the question. From the failure of Newkirk, the company learned that. See, it's not really talking about the author. It's not talking about the passage per se. It is talking about particular detail in the passage. The detail is Newkirk. Newkirk and the company, whatever after it happened, like something happened, right? Say there was some failure. After that, what did it learn? That was the question. So, what would you choose? Obviously, it has to be D. The changes in consumers' habits should not be taken for granted. Now, in the first one, this is not, this is not tested and tried strategies are essential for success. Tried and tested strategies are not really the one. Execution, planning, strategies are all here important. They should do all. It's not just one. And that's why it's not A. Surveys and data calibration are a sheer waste of time. Surveys and data calibration, okay, yeah, the sheer waste of time, that is such a harsh word. Sheer waste of time. Okay, they are not waste of time and it is not mentioned in the passage, so let's not go into the extremes. Consumers change brand preferences too frequently. Now, do we know that they change frequently? Their habits will change, yes, but can we really blame them for changing their preferences and their likings? Not really. We can't say that. Yes, we will have to be connected with their likings, and they will change according to the time and the need and the trends out there. But that doesn't mean they change too frequently. That's not the conclusion they can learn from their failure. That's definitely not the conclusion they can get it from their failure. So obviously it has to be B. Changes in consumers' habits should not be taken for granted. They can never be taken for granted. For the accomplishment of a project, Steve Jobs. Now, if you remember, Benjamin Franklin and Steve Jobs say different things. Okay, Benjamin Franklin says planning is the important part. And Steve Jobs says, we'll just go there once. Okay, I went too far, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Benjamin Franklin said, failing to plan is planning to fail. So he's stressing on the planning part. And Steve Jobs says to me, ideas are worth nothing unless executed. So you can see their quotes, their perspective, their viewpoints are very different. Benjamin Franklin was leaning towards the planning and Steve Jobs was leaning towards the execution. So very different from one another. Where were we? Yeah. So we know for the accomplishment of a project, Steve Jobs propagated an approach that is similar to Benjamin Franklin's, obviously not, because both their ideas are very different. Suggests an approach that is different from Benjamin Franklin's, yes, that is different from Benjamin Franklin's. Okay, so this is the one. Next one believes the main control is in the hands of the consumers. No, we are talking about Steve Jobs. It's only mentioned once, and it's talking about the quote is talking about the execution, and that is different from Benjamin Franklin. So yeah, it will be B. 10th one, the dash in the consumer is the capricious weather refers to the dash demands of the customers. This is a kind of interesting question because they kind of added figures of speech and vocabulary. Very good question, I would say. In this one, probably you do not know what is onomatopoeia or anaphora, but you know simile and metaphor. And you have to focus on what you know. And you probably know these words. So how do you choose it? Now, first, if you do not know, if you are not sure of figures of speech, let's go by vocabulary. We will see the consumer is the capricious weather refers to the stagnant demands of the customer. Not really. Stagnant is something different. No. Stagnant is something still, something stuck. No. Unpredictable demands of the customers, obviously not. I mean, unpredictable is something that you cannot predict. Okay, even if you keep it, this is not simile. Even if you feel like this could be the blank, this is not a simile. Capricious weather. Consumer is the capricious weather, right? You're not really using as or like. So it has to be wavering. Oscillating cannot be the one. And see, capricious weather. If you at least know metaphor, you know what it is. It is comparison without the use of as or like. Like, for example, the person is lion. Okay, that is a metaphor. You're not using anything. You are comparing, but you are not using anything. Your consumer is compared without without as or like. So it has to be metaphor and wavering. Okay. So next passage, okay, I hope you are clear with the questions and answers and the key right now so far. And next one, we are looking at the vaccine policy passage. This passage, how is this passage? Vaccine policy. See, this is one of the hot topic. As part of the current affairs and GK, you might have read these kind of passages and essays and articles like at least 100 times, I'm assuming, because if you have read a newspaper every day, the editorials are filled with these kind of passages, correct? So this is not new for you. This is definitely not new for you, probably boring. If you are so used to these kind of passages, probably you might have felt boring, but not new, correct? So this is an easy passage. This is an easy passage. Let's see. What is the author's view here? The author is kind of like supporting the fact that India is exporting and helping out the other neighbors and poor countries. While there was criticism, internal criticism, author is kind of like escaping that and saying, you know what, it's actually good that we are actually exporting and helping out the other people. Actually, other countries should actually learn from us, the India. So that's what the author is saying. Which of the following best describes the purpose of the passage? To encourage vaccinationalism and discourage global cooperation. You know that author is definitely supporting global cooperation. Even if you do not know what is vaccinationalism, even if you do not understand that term, you know that author is for global cooperation. So that's for sure. And so it cannot be discouraged. Global cooperation cannot be the one, right? To discourage vaccinationalism and encourage global cooperation. This is the one. What is vaccinationalism? Vaccinationalism is something that keeping it in the country, like looking after only our own needs first, and being the selfish kind of like that one, and not helping out others because we are focusing on ourselves first. That is vaccinationalism. So that is what author is negating. The author is kind of discouraging that. The author is saying we should really help out the other people. So yeah, D is the one. What is the purpose of the passage? See, understand, when you have these kind of questions, you have to understand author's viewpoint a lot. That is extremely important. I hope you have done this. I hope you got this question right. Okay, so yes, to discourage vaccinationalism and encourage global cooperation. To encourage poor countries and discourage advanced countries. This is not really about encouraging some countries and discouraging some other countries. It's not about that. To encourage India to provide vaccines to poor nations. Now, this cannot be the answer. When we say purpose, what is the purpose? We always learn this. When we say purpose of the passage, we understand, we should know that why author has written this passage. Why did the author write this article? In order to say, you know what, this is not really wrong to export the vaccines in order to help other people, other countries, poor countries, neighbor countries, etc. It's actually a good motive and good move. That's what the purpose of the passage is. It's not really about only giving it out to the poor people, poor nations, not really about that. And also it's not really, see, to encourage India to provide vaccines to the economy. They have already given it. India has done its part. Author is just analyzing it if it is a good move or a bad move. Author is saying it's a good move. It's not really about, give it more. Please give more. It's not about that. Correct? So obviously it has to be B. Next one, the term inoculation process as used in the passage means. If you know the meaning, and I'm thinking you know because this is something that we saw everywhere. This word is something that is there everywhere whenever we talk about vaccine. So it means the artificially inducing the immunity, the process how the vaccine works and the antibody creation in the body. That is inoculation. So yes, it is D. Okay. Advanced purchase contracts of vaccines by developed countries are premised on hopes that vaccination will restore normalcy and thrust economic recovery. Yes, that is one of the hope. Vaccination will bring back powers to nations. Now, this according to the passage, it's different. But it will promote then growth. Now, when they do it, it's not really they are doing in order to bring some sort of, kind of like boost the economy, global well-being. They're actually purchasing for themselves, and that's where countries with our country, they're actually country, right? So vaccinated, they can come on the streets, they can work, and the economy will revive again. Global is the word problem, and it's not really about growth and well-being. Well-being is not. Okay, vaccination will protect the health of the world population. It's very selfish. The so it has to be. Repercussions among, we already have negative repercussions, and you can see author was hinting that it's not really nice when people criticize the India's move as in exporting the vaccines. So who will criticize? Obviously India's, the people in the country, right? People felt, even this happened also, you know this, as current affairs and all that. People felt that it was not a good move to export the vaccine first, because when we didn't have vaccine ourselves, how can we give it to the people? And author was hinting towards it. Probably this was before the harsh criticism and all that. Author was hinting like you really shouldn't criticize. Just look at it objectively, etc. So it is obviously people from India, right? Okay. Among the sustainable, the third goal, ensure health well-being at the all ages. Which of the following sentences from the passage reflects the reversal of SDG? Now, you know that this is not something exactly part of the passage. It's not given in the passage. But you know that they have given the definition here itself. It's not like they're just out of blue giving you one term and that is not included in the passage and giving you just like that. No, they're not doing that. What are they saying? They are giving you normally sustainable development goals, and they're giving you definition also. What is the third one? Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages, as in all times, all ages, for everybody. That is the third goal. That is the third goal of the sustainable development, right? So this is the definition, and they have given it. And the question is, which of the following sentences from the passage reflects the reversal of the SDG? I would say this is a difficult question, especially because the question was kind of confusing. I get it, but it is not that difficult. They are just giving you they have given you the definition, and they are asking you to see what follows this one is easier. But what did they say? They said reversal of it. They did not say what follows this goal. No, they said reversal of it. That's when it gets even more tricky. But let's see. The argument of public good and global cooperation have gone out of the window now. Yeah, honestly, that would be B, but the examiner might have thought this. You can see everything is a reversal. Every argument of public good and global cooperation have gone out of the window. Now. That is reversing, right? You are not taking care of the people, and you are not really caring about the people's health. That is reversing. So it is probably one of the one. Next one, advanced countries have turned their back on the need of poor countries to access COVID vaccines. See, advanced countries have turned their back, as in they're not really doing anything. What is the goal? The goal is to give promote people's health and sort of help them to achieve the health. That's what the third goal is, and you turn your back on it. So obviously this is also the one. The advanced purchase contracts made by some advanced countries for potential vaccines could vaccinate their population many times. So we already saw this question, right? Why would the advanced and developed countries purchasing the why were they purchasing them, the contracts, in order to vaccinate their own people, not to help out the others, but rather to vaccinate their own people. So this is also kind of selfish. If you see, this is selfish, this is selfish, and this is selfish. No, nothing really is SDG in this manner. As in, what is the goal? As in, to ensure healthy lives for everybody. This is not really including anything here. So that's why it will be all of them. Okay, that's probably why examiner put it up. I don't think there is any contesting chance in English. I don't really see. It's also different for English. You know this. I mean, it's very interpretative, different one. Okay, if I interpreted it differently from you, then it's not like I'm wrong. I'm just thinking differently. So English is very tricky in terms of like correct answer and wrong answer. Not like other subjects where you for sure know, okay, this is the right and this is the wrong. You'll have to get in sync with this, with the author, with the examiner for us to solve it in English. Okay, next one. Following the transition of democracy within the inauguration of Nelson Mandela, yes, this is about the democracy in South Africa, right? The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC. TRC, this is about that. And you can see that, so after apartheid, after the war, they went through a lot of struggles and they got some normalcy. But here the author is criticizing TRC, that is Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Why? Because whatever motive they had when they were forming the commission, that was not there when it is formed. They were actually doing the opposite of what they formed for. So that is the problem here. Author is very critical of it. Means you know this. This is very easy one. We have learned it. In status quo is already existing conditions, and I really don't want any wrong answers in this question. I hope you didn't get it wrong, because it's see, these kind of questions you should never get it wrong, because easiest ones, that's where you should score. Which of the following best describes the tone of the author? Very easy. This is also obviously author is criticizing the TRC, right? So it is D, critical of them. Critical of them. Which of the following is not the broader concern of the Truth and Reconciliation, TRC? This is a difficult question. I felt this was difficult. I would say you should have even left it if you didn't. Because if you felt it was difficult, you probably should have, it would be good if you had, but even if you didn't leave it, it's fine, whatever is done is done. Like, there isn't much chance for English as we discussed. But anyhow, to deal with crimes of a past regime through a concept of truth. So what is the question? First understand this. Which of the following is not the broader concern? Not the broader concern. Okay, not is important here. Now, what are the broader concerns we should know? It feels like everything is included in the passage. To deal with the crimes of a past regime with the concept of truth, it was one of the, we can just go back and see what all the broader concerns that are there. And to emerge as a political strategy for the reconciliation of the rule of law. Did they say rule of law? I don't think they did. But let's see. Emerging as a political strategy to acknowledge the past sufferings, while as promoting a future based on the concepts of social justice, the rule of law and reconciliation, the Commission has struggled to fulfill its objectives. Okay, so what? So they did mention all of this. That's where it gets confusing. I'm like, okay, everything is mentioned. How is this answer? Just this is one annoying question I found on this paper. Okay, emerging as a political strategy to acknowledge past suffering they mentioned, while it's promoting future based on the concerns of the social justice, they mentioned social justice, but the rule of law and reconciliation, that also they mentioned, the Commission has struggled to fulfill its objectives. So this is something that author says, but what does the Commission say? This is something, why is this moving without my color? I'm not moving it. If you go down, okay, yeah. If you go down, this one, I think I highlighted it on my paper. Let me just see. Yeah. Okay, South Africa, yeah. You can see they did not really. And what was the question? The question was, which of the following is not broader concern of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? And we have to say that to emerge as a political strategy. Now, that is the one here. It have not political strategy. Nowhere it is mentioned, at least not actively mentioned, that it is doing it for the political strategy of it, right? Yeah. As a political strategy, we don't know. It's what so that's where probably it went the other way. So that's where probably to emerge as a political strategy for reconciliation of rule of law, that is where it is. So it's not really a broader strategy for it to be a political strategy, right? Sorry, broader concern for it to be a political strategy. If you see others, they are part of it, but only this lining and of this is probably somewhere wrong. That's why probably examiner would have chosen this one, right? This is not you can never go wrong with this. Sorry, there was a connection loss. Yes, where were we? Yeah. Which of the following statements is least likely to be inferred from the passage? Least likely. The TRC ignored some of the broad concerns. Yes, it did. That's what the author is criticizing them for. That whatever they started off, like they said they were going to do something good, but they didn't do anything. They ended up not doing a lot of things. So this is definitely is inferred from the passage. So it is not least likely. So this is eliminated. Committees of TRC lacked an agenda of social transformation. That is also true, right? It can be inferred from the passage. Even subcommittees didn't do anything. So that is also there. The TRC made earnest efforts to protect human rights. It did not, right? That's what the author is complaining about, like criticizing them for. They did not make any efforts. They just maintained whatever it was before, like during the apartheid and other times, and whatever it was, the status quo is maintained. The kind of hierarchy, the kind of like subjugation, etc. Those are maintained. So this is the one. TRC lacked the desire and strength to challenge the prevailing condition. Like the desire and strength. See, strength is not really a good one. They didn't have the earnest, they didn't make any efforts. It's not about not having the strength, it's not about not having the power. So that's where this is not the one. Okay, it's not really about lacking strength. What does amnesty mean in the context of the passage? Amnesty, it means what? Official pardon. That means the actual meaning of it also, it's amnesty is the official pardon. Okay, from the context of the passage also we can easily say this. And close options are there, yes. And you'll have to, as I said, you'll have to compare them. And I hope you did that in Testaments. Okay, let's see. So, and supporting school. Which one of the authors? Now, this is also, I would say, kind of tricky, right? Kind of tricky, like not exactly like because there could be close call between A and B. People could easily go for a relatively clear framework pursues any kind of inquiry because it's clearly given. That's what Noam Chomsky said. If you read the code, we'll go back. If you read the code, that's what exactly Noam Chomsky said. Sorry. Okay. Where is it? Yeah, you cannot pursue any kind of inquiry without a strategy, without a relatively clear framework that is directing your search and helping you and what is not. So this is exactly what Noam Chomsky said. But the answer is not that. Why? We are not the question is really not asking what did Noam Chomsky say. The question is not what he says. Why did the author following is the author trying to suggest? Why did the author use the quote of Noam Chomsky? What is the purpose behind using the quote of Noam Chomsky? That is the question, right? So that question, your technology shall purposefully structured manner in education. This is why this will be the answer, not B. B is the one what Noam Chomsky said, not author is suggesting. Correct? So that's where I'm not sure how many of you got confused with this question. I hope you got the right answer. But let's see. Like this is the where you could have gone wrong. Like if at all you chose the other option. So just see the reading the question twice is extremely important in these kind of questions. And I understand this time CLAT has very verbose. It has been very verbose, as in it gave a lot of words. It's very like lengthy, giving a lot of words and huge passages and huge paragraphs. Even question and options are not very simple. I get that, but what can we do? But otherwise, it's very easy. Other factors they are very easy. Only it was the complaint was it's kind of lengthy. A is the one. So technology shall be used in purposively structured manner in education. That is the one. Technology helps to choose what is significant and reject what is not significant. See, this is not why author was using the Noam Chomsky quote. Technology must help us to respect individual peer group. No, this is not the one. We are talking about education. So obviously, okay. Which of the following is not a premise of author's argument in favor of the need for schools and colleges? Now, what is a premise? That is important. Do you know what is a premise? A premise is a base for an argument, a base for a theory. Like you base something. So there is a theory that you have, or argument that you have, and you are basing something on it. So that is the premise. Now, that is important. That's why. So what did they ask? They said they asked not a premise. So something that is not a base for all the author's arguments. Not a base for opportunities for socialization. The colleges have shown perseverance. Provide authors, right? Author feels that perseverance. This is also right. So this is also one of the premises. Like authors feel that there